Alright, we're back with Dwarf Fortress on Dwarf Fortress Remote. Today I wanted to talk more about kind of the early game progression. Last time we left off with, actually I'll just pull it up right here. We talked about digging, we talked about chopping trees. Now, there's one area I've realized after looking at this thing closer that it doesn't really talk about, and something that's very important in the early game is to make sure that you've set up your stockpiles, make sure you've set up your zones. Those aren't actually listed on here, and I'm not quite sure why, actually, because this is a really great flowchart, and maybe I'm missing it somewhere. Anyway, there's definitely mentions of stockpiles here, but not kind of a general stockpile that you would set up when you first start. So I wanted to kind of show and demonstrate those things. First of all, we need some place for the animals to hang out. We don't want them just kind of wandering around aimlessly. We also need to kind of officially dedicate a particular spot for the dwarves to get water when they get thirsty. So we're going to go ahead and do those. So the first thing is setting up the zone for the animals. So again, you're going to go up to the menu. You're going to tap zone. And you're going to set up an activity zone, and it doesn't need to be super big, and I prefer to keep my animals close to the entrance. So we'll go ahead and start it up here, kind of end it down around there. Then what you're going to do after you've set the zone is again hit this little green circle, and that's going to let you determine what the zone's purpose is. So we don't have, pretty much any of these zones set up yet. So we're going to go ahead and set up a lot of these right now. So this first one's going to be a pen or a pasture. Go ahead and tap on that. And then down here, you have to explicitly say which animals belong to these zones. We're going to go to set pen and pasture, and we're just going to check every single one just by tapping on them. So both of our cats, both of our dogs, both of our horses. Once we're done with that, we're going to create a refuse zone or a trash zone. Again, you don't want to have this super close to where your dwarves are going to be, but you don't want to have it that far away either, because they are going to be running trash and such out. So again, we're just going to tap up here on the corner, create another zone right here. This will be the garbage dump. Again, the top is already marked as active, but if you wanted to deactivate a zone for some reason, you can go ahead and choose that right there. So there's no changes here that you need to make, no settings or anything, just simply tapping garbage dump for this zone is fine. This little water, I don't even really want to call it a lake, maybe like a pond, right here is a good area, I think, for us to have a designated water area. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that whole thing. Go down here and select the water source, and that should be good. I mean, I'm not too sure about fishing, but I believe you need to do that on a river, which is why rivers are nice. Open bodies of water will have fish. Small little ponds like this, I don't think they'll ever have fish. I could be wrong about that, but again, I don't really want to get too deep into that. I will talk about some of these other ones. There's not really a whole lot that we're going to do right now, but clearly you can sort of tell what these are. Meeting areas, hospitals, animal training. A lot of these are exactly what you think they'd be. We're going to have a meeting area later on, but for the most of these, we're not going to worry about setting these in this tutorial. Just wanted to have them here and have it so you can see them. So now what we're going to do is let the game kind of go because they were in the middle of digging these stairs down that we had sort of designated last time. I'm going to check right here. Okay, so we are still above um, the stone, and we do want to have our dwarfs in the stone, not necessarily in dirt. So um, they should be digging further down. I think, yeah, we'll have to designate a few more up downstairs here. And we'll do one more floor there. And then we'll give our dwarves just a second to get down there and dig those out. So there they are. It looks like we have finally hit obsidian. Oh, good. All right. So from here, we're going to define what I think is kind of a good starting position. So right now we're just going to have them dig out this tunnel, and then we will also designate a kind of a general stockpile area just to kind of get everything outside into the fort. Here I'll just create one little door and one little door there, and that should be good for both of them as far as giving them enough to do for a few minutes. While they're digging, we are going to want to start thinking about farming as well. There's a really great image on the Dwarf Fortress wiki to show the kind of progressions of which plants you can plant, what they're used for, which seasons you can plant them in. And I really like it. I'm going to go ahead and show that while the diggers are digging the stockpile some more. So here's the image. I will try to remember to link to it, but if you go to the Dwarf Fortress wiki, you go to farming. It's, at least at the time of recording, it's right here on the right, general farming flowchart. But the main two things that we're going to plant, at least initially, are going to be the pigtails and the plump helmets. So if you look over on the flowchart here, you can see the pigtail and plump helmets listed right here. As we're now finally starting to get some stone, I'm going to go ahead and highlight this, and we got wood last time, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. So we've covered those. Alright, so back on the Dwarf Fortress Remote, they've finished digging, so what we're going to do for now is establish kind of a default stockpile. Again, it's going to be up in the menu. We're going to tap stockpile this time. Start in the top right corner and or top left corner and the bottom right corner of this stockpile. By default, it shows up as an animal stockpile. We're going to designate what we want here by, again, hitting the little circle just like we did with the animal zone up above on the surface of the world. So we're going to let them take anything from anywhere. We currently don't have any bins or barrels, but we do want to have them add them here when we do eventually make them. A couple of wheelbarrows is also really good. It helps movement when the dwarfs are actually hauling things here. Now, after we've done both of those, we're going to go up to settings, and we're going to determine what goes in here. Now, this is another feature I really like. They've done really well with this. You just slide to disable, and you can disable it. We're going to basically have everything but food in here, everything but food and refuse. And probably not stone. We do want stone and wood readily available down here, but we want to actually create a specific stockpile for those, because the problem with having a stockpile this big, especially with all those trees we cut down upstairs, is it's going to get full with just stone and wood, and it's not going to have room for, the other knickknacks we've brought with us. So I'm going to go ahead and enable everything. Initially, this is a good idea. You will eventually create a kind of specialized set of stockpiles for each one of these. Alright, so I've enabled everything but wood, stone, refuse, food, and animals here. So that's generally, in my opinion, a good initial stockpile. We're going to go ahead and dig out another area, and that's where we're going to have our wood and stone stockpiles. So let's go ahead and maybe make a slightly smaller one over here. And here we go. So we're doing this because we're going to set up some workshops very soon, and the workshops will be using the wood and the stone as raw resources. We don't want to, again, fill our general purpose stockpile with those just because they're so numerous. Alright, so we went ahead and did those. Our miners are now going to come back down and start digging. As you can see, the other miners are beginning to start hauling things down here. One thing that's good to check is to make sure that everybody has hauling enabled. In the early part of a fortress, you want everyone to be hauling. Later on, you're going to have specialized dwarfs. I think they're called nobles. But in general, you're going to have people with specialized jobs that kind of do things like your doctor, some of the other dwarfs. I guess we can kind of just go look at this right now. These are the lists of the specialized positions, and these are generally after you get a few. I guess later on you're going to get these waves of new people coming into your, or new dwarves coming into your fort, called migrant waves, and that's generally how you get your population increased. Once you do that, you're going to want to have a lot of these positions filled, and we can talk about them again in a later tutorial. Just wanted to bring them out or bring it out and kind of show you what I was talking about. We're going to go ahead and go back to labors. We're going to go to, I believe it's towards the bottom here. Yeah, we have 7 cleaners, 7 builders, 7 removers, road builders, lever operators, and then, yeah, all 7 dwarfs are tasked with hauling everything. So you can actually specialize specific things. So if you wanted someone to just haul wood or just haul stone, for instance, you can specialize those. But for now, having them general like this is very helpful. So we're going to go ahead and continue this. Not quite sure why there are still, again, like I mentioned before, at the top here, you can kind of see there are 4 dwarves that are idling right now. We can go, I guess, look at them if we wanted to. Again, tapping the menu, go to units. Says all of these have no job. Go to the unit, tap on him. I'm not quite sure. Let's see. Manage skills. Yeah, not quite sure why they're not hauling. They're supposed to be, and they're currently enabled, but yeah, we'll go ahead and let this play out. All right, good. Yeah, it looks like some of the other dwarfs are finally getting off their lazy butts and moving. So, yeah, again, you can see down here, one of the dwarfs was using the wheelbarrow to actually haul things, which is nice. We can go back down. Again, I really like to set points so I can easily kind of flip between specific areas. Place a viewpoint on the map. I will just call this fort and press OK. And this is just kind of downstairs in the fort. And then we're going to create a new stockpile and designate one half of this to stone, which in general you're going to probably be doing a bit more with stone than you are with wood. So I'm going to set, again, maybe 6 bins. I'm going to set this as a stone, disable the animals, and that'll be purely for stone. And then I'm going to create one more stockpile right here. Whoa. Sorry, I've got to unselect that. Go back to stockpile, designate a new stockpile right here, and this will be just for wood. Now that covers most of what I wanted to show about stockpiles. Again, I'm going to use the points, go back to the entrance. I'm going to go up here to that trash area that we made and create another stockpile nearby or possibly overlapping. This will be for kind of everything we don't really want to keep in the fort. Refuse and corpses. So that should make it so that every single one of the areas is covered. Hopefully I'm not forgetting anything, but the last thing we need to do is set up farms. So the back on the flowchart, farm plot is covered here, and it says, you want to make pigtails and plump helmets. Again, if you look back on the this crop diagram, you can see that pigtails and plump helmets are subterranean, meaning that they are indoors. Plump helmets and pigtails are kind of your main two things. Your dwarfs like to drink a lot of alcohol, and they get very grumpy, and I think they might even die without it. I haven't tried to push it that hard, but I'm going to go down one level here, and then build out another little tunnel where I'm going to set up the farms. You don't need an absolutely huge farm right away, but you will need a fair amount of space for just the workshop, the farmer's workshop inside this area as well. Gotta make sure okay, good. All right, yeah, so we'll go ahead and unpause, let the dwarves come in and kind of mine this area out. And we'll go ahead and set up our first farms here. Again, this will be the pigtails and plump helmets. It'd be helpful, I guess, if you could sorry, see the area that I had designated for digging. So right now our fort's in full swing. You can see I have somewhere between 0 and 1 idle dwarves, which is nice. Means that everybody's doing something, probably hauling right now. Alright, so he's digging. One thing to point out is that these farms cannot be placed in stone. Makes sense if you think about it, but so what we're trying to do here is build out some of the or build out kind of a hole in this area where we can actually plant things. So to do that, what you're going to do is you're going to go up to the 3 bars here. Again, we're going to select building, and under building on the right here is farm plot. We're going to go ahead and tap that. So this is one of the weird quirks with Dwarf Fortresses. When you're building these kind of sizable zones, you actually need to set the size before you try to place anything. You can do that by pressing these buttons right up here on the top right corner. This one's going to reduce the size of your farm. This is going to expand it horizontally. This will expand it vertically, and this will shrink it vertically. So I'm going to go ahead and tap the expand horizontally twice, or sorry, 4 times, and the same thing for the vertical, so we can create a nice 5x5 farm. This is a little big for 7 dwarves, but again, we're sort of planning for expansion here. I'm going to go ahead and hit the green circle there, and that's going to go ahead and lay the plan for the farm. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing right here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and try to build a farm. I already have an accident here. I have accidentally placed a 1x1 farm tile right here. So I'm going to show you really quick how to get rid of a farm tile if you need to. So on this left side here is the magnifying glass. Go ahead and tap it and tap the eye again. We're going to highlight the one spot where it says there's a clay floor and a farm plot. Go ahead and tap on that. We're going to tap the farm plot. And then we're just going to go to remove building. So there we go. So again, we need to make one more farm. We're going to go to farm plot. Go ahead and expand this. And there we go. We got our 2 farm plots. Now, we're going to go ahead and really briefly reference the diagram here again, and we're going to notice that plump helmets are plantable year-round, A, B, C, D, but the pigtails are only farmable in B and C. And again, the guide is right here, where B is summer and C is autumn. So in spring and winter, we are unable to plant. So what we're going to want to do is set the crop rotation for these 2 places. We're going to go ahead and go to, again, that eye, tap on this farm plot, go ahead and open it up. Oh, bummer. I think actually we need to wait for the farm plot to be constructed before we can determine what can be planted there. So this farm plot got finished, and in just hopefully one more second, yeah, the other farm plot will get planted or established. So from there, go ahead and tap on the farm plot. So this is the kind of the menu for the different planting seasons. So right now, we can't really do much with fertilizer. We will get to that a little bit later, but that's a really good way to boost the production of your plants. This plot, we're going to set up the plump helmets, and we're just, again, going to tap all 4 of these. And that will allow us to do plump helmets for all 4 seasons, and that's good. The plump helmets are kind of the core dwarf staple. They produce dwarven wine, which is yes, and I believe plump helmets can also be eaten by themselves, and that's one of the few foods that can actually be eaten raw. So it's an extremely great crop to keep around. So we're going to go ahead and close this. We're going to tap the other farm plot, which is not done yet. Hold on. There he goes. When he moves off, that means it's done. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and select the farm plot. Again, if we look in spring, we don't see any of the pigtails here. So I think we're going to do, let's see, maybe dimple cups. They're not super useful. I believe they're just used for actually, I need to go look up more on what they are, but I believe they're used for dyes. I don't remember what else. In summer, we are going to do the pigtails. In autumn, again, the pigtails. In the winter, maybe we'll do some more plump helmets or something. All right. From here, I believe that's basically it for kind of setting up the farms. What we're going to also want to do is we're going to create the, let's jump back over to the flowchart real quick. We're going to create the farmer's workshop here. This is to let them process the pigtails, which, if I remember right, lets them do dwarven ale and also pigtail thread. Pigtail thread is, again, used in making clothes, I believe. So now we're going to go ahead and start building our first workshops. We're going to build the farmer's workshop and a still up here. The farmer's workshop is used for processing the pigtails, and the still is used for brewing, as far as making all the nice booze that the dwarves are going to be drinking. So we're going to tap on the menu. We're going to go under building, and we're going to go under workshops this time. In here, you're going to see a lot of the workshops. We're going to be building a lot of these probably in the next episode. The workshops are the buildings that help you kind of get your fortress up and running. This will let us do everything like building, all the barrels and bins we're going to need. It'll help us start building all of the things we're going to need for, getting people places to sleep in their bedrooms and all the general crafting stuff. So for now, we're just going to build the farmer's workshop. We're going to build it right down here in this corner. Then it's going to ask us which material we want to make it out of. I don't believe there's a particularly good reason to use one thing over another, so in general, I recommend just using the closest materials. There are a few specialized buildings, again, we'll get to much later, that do actually matter as far as the materials you use, but for now, we can just tell them to use obsidian, which is the closest item here. And then we're also going to build under the same building workshops menu a still, and this is for the brewing. We're going to go ahead and build it right here. I'm going to leave a little gap between these workshops because sometimes the dwarfs have a little problem getting stuck in places. It's always good to leave a little bit of a space around them. So go ahead and again build the obsidian still. I'm going to designate another area to mine out right here where we can just create kind of a general food stockpile. And then we'll unpause a little bit and get the dwarves up here and mine out that area. So while we're waiting for that, if we switch back over to the flowchart really quick, we can show that we've worked on the farm plots. We've got the pigtails and the plump helmets. We've finished the farmer's workshop, and we've finished the still. Alright, I had a minor accident there and forgot to switch the screens back over. So I actually created a food stockpile here. It's creating it the exact same way we did before, but I just kind of wanted to highlight what specifically I did here. So you're going to create a food stockpile, again, unset animals, but you're actually going to dig into the food menu here you can see, there's an expanded menu with this little arrow right here. I'm going to go ahead and tap on that. We have all of the foods here. I haven't changed anything. The only thing I changed was here at the very bottom with prepared food. I unchecked it. So what I did there was establish that this is basically kind of a raw food stockpile where uncooked and unprepared foods go. This is where I generally like to have, all of the foods that we're harvesting. If we send people out to go foraging or go hunting, they'll bring the raw food here. And then I'm just going to have a separate stockpile down by the other areas that we were creating earlier. I'll have a prepared food stockpile down here along with the kitchen, which I'll probably cover in the very beginning of the next episode. But yeah, for now, that's the end here. Thank you so much for watching.